Tenet finally made its long-awaited arrival into US theaters on Monday. It is the 11th feature film of the great Christopher Nolan and features some of the classic Nolan actors like Michael Caine, but also has two of the most sought-after young actors in Hollywood right now in the form of John David Washington and Robert Pattinson. When new movies like Tenet are released, I usually prefer to do an analysis on the meaning of the movie because it's more enjoyable to dig deeper, but I've decided to make this video on Tenet a simple review because I haven't yet found a meaning in the film I think is worth sharing. There may be someone on YouTube right now who has made such a video, but because of the film's complexity, I'm just going to give my thoughts on what I think the film did well and what I don't think it did so well, and I will be getting into spoilers here, so you're free to jump off now if you haven't seen Tenet yet. So what did Tenet do well? For starters, the visuals were mind-blowing. I think that was going to be a given just looking at the trailer, but they actually exceeded my expectations. The combat scenes were some of the best I've ever seen. I have no clue how they were choreographed. They were just incredible. And of course, there are just so many images that are just jaw-dropping. The entire film was done with practical effects, which definitely worked to its benefit. I never thought I would see a car chase with one car going full speed in reverse. I never thought I'd see birds just flying backwards through the wind in the background. But I'm happy I did because it was really incredible. The score was also pretty good. Hans Zimmer was off working on Dune this time around, so Nolan had to turn to Ludwig Göransson, who did Black Panther, and it was a solid score, especially in the high-stakes moments when an emotional stimulant was needed. I thought the music was very good, and on a side note, Hans Zimmer's score for Dune is going to be amazing. When the Dune text faded in at the end of the teaser trailer, it's just perfect. On the character side of things, Neil, played by Robert Pattinson, was the strongest character for me. I thought he was the most charming, the most charismatic, and every time he was off-screen, I was really hoping he'd be back as soon as possible, because although not much is known about him until the very end of the movie, he has a mystery about him and he always seems like the most capable person in the room, which makes sense once you find out that the protagonist sent him from the future. Unfortunately, aside from Tenet's technical brilliance and Robert Pattinson's great performance, the movie falls short for me in a lot of ways that I did not expect. Now, my expectations are extremely high for Christopher Nolan movies, so I think that contributes somewhat to my disappointment, but nonetheless, I was surprised by many of the writing decisions. There will be some people who will love Tenet for all of its complexities. I mean, you could literally teach a course on this movie. Personally, I like movies that are more straightforward from a story perspective. I don't think confusion is a good feeling to have when watching a movie. Nolan himself said you might need to watch this movie a couple times. I'm not sure I'll go as far as to call it a fault, but I will say it's definitely not my preference. The two biggest problems for me in Tenet are the characters and the emotional emptiness, which are connected in many ways. I have not seen John David Washington on screen before, I haven't seen BlacKkKlansman, and he seems like a fine actor, but I was not compelled by the protagonist in any way. Now, one big reason for this is his motivation throughout the film. His only goal is to save the world. This is a common goal for many movies nowadays, and it rarely works on an emotional level. It rarely works because it's hard to connect with a fictional world. In film and TV, you have to connect with the characters. And this was also a problem for the character of Kat. I think Nolan actually recognized this problem with her because he gave her a son and made that her motivation. She wanted to save the world in order to save her son. The problem is, I don't think her son has a single line in the movie. I wanted to care about the kid, but I just couldn't. If they would have had a scene where we get to see Kat interact with her son one-on-one, or a scene where he sees his father terrorizing his mother, I think it would have done a lot for Kat as a character. The biggest disappointment for me was Kenneth Branagh's character, Andre. Nolan has a fantastic history of the villains, we all know that, but this time around he fell way short. And once again, the character's motivations are the central problem for me. Branagh did a good job in some of the scenes with Kat, they were very intense, but his goal was to destroy the world because he was dying of pancreatic cancer, and he said that if he can't live, nobody can. I hate to be tough on Nolan, but this is just dumb. When I heard that line, I thought to myself for a moment, maybe Nolan just started the creative process with visuals and then built a story around set pieces he'd like to create, because the movie's story was not fueled by the motivations of interesting characters, and as much as I love the spectacle of Tenet, characters always need to be your main concern when telling a story. This leads me to my final disappointment. Almost all of Nolan's movies have one especially powerful emotional moment that you remember for days on end, And Batman Begins, for me, it's when Bruce's house burns down and Alfred and him share this moment.
I wanted to save Gotham. I failed.
Why do we force? So that we can learn to pick ourselves up.
You still haven't given up on me.
Never.
In The Dark Knight, it has to be the interrogation scene. This is the point where you really see the Joker in his purest form. It's one of the best scenes in modern cinema, of course. In Dunkirk, it's the ending when the soldier reads Churchill's famous words in the newspaper. I could pick one from every Nolan film. Tenet did not have a moment like this for me, and that was really sad. Tenet is worth the watch simply because of the visuals. They are a real achievement, but it has to be Nolan's weakest film for me. I really expected more from it. But it is what it is. I've seen a lot of people rave about Tenet, and that's a good thing because I want people to be moved every time they go to the movie theater. Anyways, thank you for stopping by. Feel free to leave your thoughts on Tenet in the comments section. I'm curious to hear other perspectives. Also subscribe if you enjoyed this review and are interested in future videos. Have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you soon.